What up, everybody? Johnny Ward here, author of The Dummy, and I am back for another YouTube video. So with this channel, while diving into horror, I really wanted to touch on writing horror. So this is going to be the first video in that. Pretty easy breezy one. I'm not getting into any technical aspects. Just going to talk about reading. Now, if it's your first time watching these videos, I do put a lot of the focus in on writing horror, but I do hope that, and I do think that a lot of the information that I'm going to be providing would be good for any old writer. So if horror's not your thing, don't skip over. You might find something valuable. So today's episode, I want to talk about reading. I think it's so important and to me very obvious that if you want to be a writer, a really good writer rather, you do need to be an avid reader. And I've seen some discourse online of people who are writers who say you don't need to read to be a writer. I think that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard at all. So I'm just going to talk a little bit what I do and how I go about reading, and leave some comments below if you do something similar or if you're entirely different. Now, when I'm reading, I usually have one physical book, one ebook, and one graphic novel. Currently, right now, I am reading Alien 3, the unproduced first draft screenplay. I am currently on volume 3 of the omnibus of Elfenlied. Absolutely love this book. I do read a lot of manga, but I do also read comics in general. And right now with my Kindle, I am reading this. Now, when it comes to my Kindle, I usually use it for short stories or novellas, because generally when I'm reading at home, I'm reading my physical book. And then with my Kindle, I have that on the go, easy to do it in between day job work breaks, etc. Usually I use it while I'm putting the baby down, when it's my turn to put the baby down, have the lights off for nap or bedtime or whatever, and I'll be reading on that. I usually, like I said, usually short stories or novellas, but occasionally, like the book I'm reading right now, I will do it for out of print, really hard to find books. So this Predator book, which is phenomenal so far, is really hard to find. I think I saw 2 copies on eBay that were $150 or more. I don't know how anybody could call themselves a writer and not read. I'm constantly reading so many things. I do read a lot of horror, but I do jump out of that genre quite a bit. I think it's very important to read stuff outside of the genre you write. Even if you're not a writer, I think it's important to explore different genres. I do like to read the occasional thriller. I find when it comes to my writing, it really helps me with like pacing, etc. I do read a lot of horror, some thrillers, but I do, with all of my heart, love pulp stories, whether it's westerns, especially sword and sorcery, a lot of Conan. I love Keurig Warlock Warrior, which not a lot of people know about. I also think, as a writer at least, you should read a lot of stuff that you don't like to. So, for example, I know a lot of you reviewers out there can be very quick to DNF or be reluctant to DNF. Me, it is very rare for me to DNF something. One, because I just like to finish stuff that I start. But two, I find that maybe even more so than reading the stuff that I like to read, I can learn quite a bit from the stuff that I don't like to read. Because when I'm seeing stuff that doesn't jive well with me, it's like, hey, don't put that in my writing. Now, a lot of you may or may not agree on that. I don't know. But I'm always reading. And I think that if you want to be a good writer, that you should be reading too. As I've gotten older, I unfortunately haven't been reading as many big, long books anymore. Usually, when I was younger, like I read The Lord of the Rings. I I read the first Game of Thrones, but I'm not going to continue reading a story that's not finished. But into adulthood, especially as a parent with young kids and full-time job, I do kind of like short, snappy stuff. I mean, this is probably the thickest book that I've read in a while. Though, however, this year is my goal to dive through this series. I mean, this one pretty short, but the other ones are quite the doorstopper. I mean, I write so far. I've only got one published under my belt. I got another one on the way. They're novella length, though I am kind of working on a novel right now, which will probably only be 50, 60,000 words. So it's just under that, what makes something a novel. But yeah, I think that's really all I had to say today. Next week, expect to see, I'm going to be doing my first interview. My first interview on this channel anyways. I've done interviews many times in the past, but I do really want to highlight horror writers and horror content creators, not just authors, but anyone in that space. So if you're seeing this, you're a horror content creator, send me a message, DM me on social media, anything like that. But my first interview on this channel is going to be John Davies, author of Man vs. Bear, and also the writer of the cult classic Hobo with a Shotgun. I really want to pick his brain. I want to know what Rutger Hauer was like, because I absolutely love Hobo with a Shotgun. And once that video is available, I'm going to link it here or down below. I don't know. I still don't know how YouTube works, so I think I can link stuff in the video. We'll see. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. If you found this at all helpful, please like, comment, comment, subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me, and you know where to find me on all the other social medias, johnnyward.com/linktree. That's not linktree/Johnny Ward, johnnyward.com/linktree. Thanks so much.